Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Everybody's working for the weekend. Taking care of business every day. Now it's wow, 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 wow. Welcome to the working week.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Minimum wage. Yeah!
All right, so we are here. Good afternoon and everything. Here the special Thanksgiving edition of the Working Lunch, day before Thanksgiving, being broadcast live on WCW and of course taped later on City Cable.
Yep.
I'm Jeff Turchin. I'm the executive director of the Central Mass Workforce Investment Board, the organization that oversees the public workforce system in Worcester and 37 surrounding communities in Central Massachusetts. And I'm joined by Sean McGauley.
See, you took the intro again. You just got a point. I could do the
And I'm joined by
Sean McGauley. You're a co-host of it because I don't have anything to say after it.
Hey.
That's
You
just
can
my
say,
name.
well, welcome. And we're joined by our producer extraordinaire, Bob Zukowski, Dr. Robert Zukowski.
Hey, could you turn your mic? Could you turn your mic a little bit toward you, and we can hear you better?
That's why you're the producer, giving us that kind of advice.
There it is. Yep.
Yep.
No. Do I sound better now? Do I
Now
sound better
you got
now?
it.
Oh
You
yes,
got it.
you're all set now.
Well, we've got a lot to cover today, and so we're going to jump into it with our
Sure.
first guest, Miss Monica Bond, who is the coordinator of education and training. Okay, and that's for Ascentria. Did I say that correctly?
You sure did. Ascentria Care Alliance,
And that is formerly known as.
Lutheran Community Services.
So a lot of people, long
Exactly,
history as
long
Lutheran,
history,
and so
long
people
history.
are starting to finally get used to the
Get
new name.
used to it. Yes, we've moved our location from 51 Union to 11 Shattuck Street, and we're off and running.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about the what the kind of the overall scope of programming and services are at Ascentria.
Well, Ascentria is a comprehensive VOLAG that offer legal services, employment, case management, education, and a number of other kinds of programs for refugees primarily. My particular department serves refugees and immigrants in the local Worcester community.
So I know one of the programs that we wanted to make sure we talk about today is English language skills and training
Okay,
around English
sure.
language skills and how you contextualize that, because we work together very closely on
this is
programming as far as it relates to workforce training. So how some of the things you do with English language as it relates to workforce training.
Well, the bottom line for us is employment. I mean, everyone wants a job, needs a job, and they're looking for jobs at family-sustaining wages. So all of our ESL, ESOL classes really focus on those skill sets that are required for employment.
And I know that you have some classes that again are contextualized to the specific.
That's true.
To the specific industries. Can you talk a little bit about what industries and how that works?
Yeah, as you know, the healthcare industry in Massachusetts is burgeoning, and there are numerous jobs. The problem being not too many people are qualified to apply for and get these jobs. So we offer a health careers technician program, which is designed to give students the academic rigorous curriculum in the industry-specific area. It's designed to advance language acquisition skills and encourage new Americans and immigrants who've been in the community for a long time to explore their skills and interests and do a lot of employment searches exactly. So
Well, I
that's
imagine
it.
too. It's you come to a new country. You've got to learn a lot about a lot of things, including how to go about finding jobs. I mean, I imagine a lot of people come from countries where finding work is that whole network approach, and it's relationships.
Exactly,
and,
it's relationships.
And here, there's a lot
it's
of
understanding.
technological
Yeah.
online job applications or whatever. So it's, I mean,
Right.
and certainly I from what I've heard and stuff, there are those communities that kind of they help each other, and when someone gets a job at a place, they'll be
This is
looking
true.
out for, hey, my cousin is looking for work, and can he come work with us, and that kind of thing. And so one of the things I think we as a system struggle with is this notion of we want to be inclusive and friendly and open to people to come to receive our services. At the same time, we recognize without English skills, so we want to be open and serve
Right.
people. So we want
Exactly.
to offer things in their native language whenever possible, or their primary language whenever possible. At the same time, we want to eventually get them to understand the value of learning English and functioning in an English setting, so that they're able to expand their job.
Exactly. I mean, the reality of the workforce is you need to really be fluent in English. The more fluent in English you are, the better your chances are at obtaining employment at a family-sustaining wage. We really focus on English. We invite our students to practice and to have English speaking only in the classrooms as opposed to multiple languages. We know they know Spanish. We know
Yeah.
that they know French.
That's
and
kind of doing them a
Arabic.
disservice if you-
Exactly.
if you don't
exactly.
figure out a way to get
Got to
there.
figure out a way to clearly transition. We encourage being multilingual, and I want to make sure we say that. But English is now the language that requires proficiency for employment.
And
in
I
our area.
love the fact that you contextualize that learning. So if you're going to learn how to speak English, why not do it in a way that
In a
gives you
content-
examples
exactly.
of what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, we
as a-
do that with health careers. We also have a financial literacy program that does the same thing. You're looking at what we call a VESL, or vocational education in the context, ESL rather, in the context of a vocational.
So that's an acronym.
Yeah,
that-
exactly. It's an acronym, V/ESOL.
Great.
Yep.
So we're talking with Monica Bond, the coordinator of education training at Ascentria Care Alliance. Is it Care Alliance?
Care Alliance,
Right, get it.
empowering people, strengthening communities.
Oh,
That's
excellent.
our new logo. Motto.
Excellent. Are there? How can people get involved in your programming? If is there specific eligibility around being designated a refugee or immigrant, or can anyone that wants to take part in these classes?
Anyone that wants to take part can take part. Our focus is on, obviously, our refugee or new American clients, but also immigrants in the community who've been here a long time and just have not been able to make friends, have connections that further their economic stability. So, yes,
Okay.
we're open.
So how can people get in touch? Is there a website they should go to? A call? Should they call the main number? What would be their next step, you think?
The next step is to call,
Okay.
okay, 774.
I was going to say, I don't want to put you on the spot now.
No, we have a new number, but I think I have it, 774-243-3100. And ask for the education department, and we enroll every Monday from 12:30 to 2:30. And it can drop right in, sit right down, assess. You're assessed in English, in math, in reading, and writing.
One thing I think before we let you go, I want
Yes.
to touch upon too is oftentimes in the media, and in society in general, there's some backlash against refugees, immigrants, and one I have a good friend of mine that works. He's in the service industry, working with he's a cleaner and works with a lot of people from varied backgrounds, new Americans, and he told me something once that kind of stuck with me. He's like, say what you want, but these people, they came here, they dropped, what they were doing, they got here. Amazing stories about how they got here, and the perseverance and the tenacity to follow a dream and to be here takes so much courage for them that it's so hard for us and for me to kind of understand that. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
Growing up in a more or less middle class family and having kind of comfort around me and being able to access what we have in America, and for these people to come here, it's sometimes easy to overlook and say, oh, whatever, but the courage it takes for them. So it might be the person who's cleaning your office, or they're really starting off kind of at the bottom in a lot of ways, but the courage it took for them to come here, and so not to so easily maybe dismiss these folks as people, and so that always struck with me. And And so the work you're doing with them to help them prepare themselves for success in America is incredible. I want to thank you for that.
Okay, let me just set one quick record
Uh-oh,
straight.
uh-oh.
When you're looking at the refugee population, they're not coming, kind of dropping what they're doing. They're persecuted and their lives are threatened. Then they come from refugee camps, and this is not a very exactly. This is not a choice. This is. This is a. I understand. Yes, but I know there's a confusion there. The immigrant population comes for different reasons, but at the same time often have difficulty because they don't know what to do, where to go, who to connect with, that the language is delayed and their progress in our community is delayed. The important thing to note is that both of these groups are our neighbors. They're our new neighbors. And if we want to have safe and healthy and happy communities, we need to treat our neighbors very nicely, work with
and
them,
what better way to
encourage them.
to get them
Exactly.
into our neighborhoods as neighbors than to welcome them in and treat them as such and as the valuable people they are. I think sometimes that's kind of my point was sometimes it's easy to kind of overlook them as being the other.
And it's important to say that our partnership works in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, we're talking with Miss Monica Bond, the Education Training Coordinator at Ascentria Care Alliance. Before I let you go, we do have a little game we're going to play with you.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
you have a fairly well-known last name.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people, of course, associate Bond with
James has.
Yes, James Bond.
My
And-
grandfather's name, incidentally.
Well, there you go. Well, then you might be very good at this game.
Okay.
There's been many Bonds throughout the years, actors portraying James Bond, the character, the fictional character, 007.
Yes.
And so what we're going to do, I'm going to give you, there's four, we picked out four.
Okay.
More or less the top four, but
Top four.
there's debatable. So Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery, and now Daniel Craig
Yes.
are all actors that have portrayed James Bond.
Right.
So there's four of them. I'm going to give you three bios, and you're going to tell me, you're going to try to put the name to the bio.
To the bio.
And if you can get 2 out of 3, you get
Yes.
yourself a mug, courtesy of Penta Communications, one of our contributing members at the board and helpers of our program here. So, this Bond actor worked as a model, appearing in print advertisements for knitwear, earning him the amusing nickname, the Big Knit, and a wide range of other products that he was hawking, such as toothpaste. Which Bond actor? Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery, or Daniel Craig? The Big Knit.
Looks like I'm going to be mugless.
Oh, well.
No, okay, let's try this. Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, well,
No.
you were, that was
I was
actually,
close.
but you're gonna get, the odds are gonna get better.
Okay.
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
Okay, after leaving school at age 16, this Bond actor decided to be a painter and began training in commercial illustration at art school. While attending a rehearsal, a fire eater came by and taught, and he was interested enough to seek training as it and became a street performer as a fire eater, where a
Oh my
circus
goodness.
agent saw him and signed him up, and he was hired for 3 years in a local circus.
No kidding.
Yeah, huh?
Which one was that?
So now your choices are Pierce Brosnan, Sean
Okay.
Connery, or Daniel Craig.
Sean
What
Connery.
what was the last one you gave? What was the last
I gave you
answer?
Pierce Brosnan.
You might
really?
wanna
I might want to stick with
you
that.
wanna stick with that?
Pierce Brosnan.
You're right, Pierce
Whoa!
Brosnan.
That's great.
Look at that. So that's I'm going to put that in the win column. So this one now is for all the marbles. That mug is
Okay.
resting on this one.
On this one.
And it's a 50-50 chance.
Mm.
This Bond actor, his first job was as a milkman. After a stint in the Navy, he worked as a delivery driver, a lifeguard, a laborer, an artist model for an art school, and a coffin polisher.
Whoa.
This actor polished coffins. So, Sean Connery or Daniel Craig? And I'm gonna if a 50-50 chance here.
Well,
You
because
might
you
wanna
said
go
milk delivery.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to
an
the
old-
older guy,
yes.
Sean
I
Connery.
like your logic on this.
But it's wrong.
No. Great
Really?
logic. So, Sean Connery, you're correct.
Oh.
And we owe you one mug. So we do ask that you that you contact us after the show so we can make
Okay.
the delivery arrangements. It's obviously a
All
very
right.
high-tech process we're
High-tech
using
process,
so that we
yes.
can deliver this mug
Okay.
without breakage or seepage
Or
or
pick
anything.
it up at the next meeting, right?
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
So we want to, sir.
It's a very valuable mug, has to be hand-delivered.
It's
Hand
exactly
delivered.
right. We can't just
Okay.
bring it today with the snow and all. We didn't
I
want to
understand.
risk.
Didn't want to risk breaking it.
So,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you
wonderful
very much.
Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
And again, thank you for all the work you're doing in the community.
Looking forward to it.
Miss Monica Bond, the Education Training Coordinator for Ascentria Care Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean, we're going to get you to come back in, and we're going to jump right into our next guest. So we got a lot going on today for the Thanksgiving holiday. It was nice, huh? Sean, can you grab a microphone here? That was nice, huh?
Yeah, it's
She
good.
did a great job on that quiz too.
Absolutely. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
We were kind of guessing behind the scenes here, and I wasn't doing too well.
You know, one thing a lot of people probably in the listening audience don't know, jumping back to our conversation with Monica, is that, in fact, we've had people intern in our office and volunteer in our office, and we've had a couple of them on our show about
Oh, yeah,
a year
Delaire,
ago.
yeah.
Did we have both on, Delaire
Just
and his
Delaire.
wife?
Just
We just had Delaire,
Yeah,
but
and he talked about the job market and job search strategies in Iraq, which was a lot
right,
different
he's
than
a
here.
Kurdish refugee from Iraq and had worked helping U.S. troops and,
Yeah.
of course, somewhat targeted as a population. So, and so because of that, came over and so we, great guy, great family, and now moving on and doing some great stuff. He's actually working over at the Worcester Public
Yeah,
Library.
they
and doing
both
a-
have
doing a good job
full-time
there.
jobs over at the Worcester Public Library, so it's great to see them doing so well for
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, and of course they receive services through Monica and the organization there as well. So we're now going to bring in Stuart Loosemore. And Stuart, you are, remind me, are you the government policy manager, director?
The full title is General Counsel and Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy.
And should I use the term Esquire when,
Yes, I am a
Esquire.
I am a licensed attorney. Yes.
are they all Esquires? Is that how it works?
The way it was explained to me, Esquire is a licensed attorney, whereas JD can sometimes imply you have the degree and maybe didn't take the bar, but everybody uses it.
Yeah, Esquire, you mean?
No, interchangeably. I mean,
Okay.
some people put JD, some people put Esquire. I don't know that it really matters too much.
Well, thanks for coming by. I know you got a lot going on at the chamber, and we want to probably touch upon a couple of things, but we also wanted to kind of get into one issue that I know the chamber is very focused on these days. So why don't we just in general, how are things going over at the Chamber of Commerce? I think we want to get a little closer to the microphone here. That'll bend or whatever.
That would imply people want to hear what I have to say.
People love what you have to say. sir.
Looking
I
good.
enjoy how your chair is just higher enough that I feel like I'm looking like at your
I know-
chin.
you know what, and I
I'm not a
like to-
tall man to begin with, and now I feel even shorter.
I
sitting,
could switch chairs with
sitting
you.
here
I
next
tried
you.
to
No,
lower
no.
this one. There's no mechanism.
Sure,
here.
sure. It's just your big power play to stand above people
Exactly.
and you know.
I should have wore like a yellow power tie too or something, right? So, Sean, did you print out the? So we've had you on the guest for a couple. We got to hold it up to the camera. And I think Sean, we need to. You might have to put something behind it. It might be too translucent there, but. So you've been on the show a couple times now. So we thought,
Yes.
why not highlight the fact and as almost like a regular contributor to the show. Maybe we should have a segment kind of title for you and all that. So what do we got there? It's a nice little thing Sean made up. Can we look at that? Can you show it to now? Show it to. All right. So now we're going
A
to show it.
hearty helping of
A
stew.
hearty helping of stew.
Now, Sean and I
Hey,
had
at
a
least you
little
spelled
bit.
my name right. I appreciate that.
We had a little bit of a disagreement in the office because I love the concept of using the letters to spell your name, but I was like, that's vegetable soup. And I
Not
thought
a
we should
stew.
have used a bowl of stew. And then he was like, but what would the noodle letters be doing in a bowl of soup? I mean, a bowl of stew. I got to say, it worked great. Yours probably came out.
Try and spell it out with P's, because P's would be in stew.
He's all about the realism here. You can't just willy-nilly put lettered noodles into like a stew. It just
Because
doesn't
you
belong.
wouldn't naturally
But
find
what are
them.
they doing
Sure.
there?
I wanna
Peas,
finish
however.
this.
I like your thinking. Okay, so what's going on over at the chamber?
A lot of things, but
Yeah.
this time of year is always tax classification time, where the city sets the tax rates for residents and businesses.
And obviously, the chamber has some opinions that they're putting forward and has kind of a position on this. So I wanted a chance to have you come, because I don't really understand the issue as well as I could or should. And
Okay.
it'd be great to kind of maybe walk us through what the issue is and what the chamber's thinking in terms of a policy proposal or suggestions.
Sure. Well, take a step back for a second, and I'll try not to get too far into the weeds and make your eyes glass over. But 1984, the City Council in Worcester voted to go to what's known as a dual tax
So
system.
before then, there was just one tax.
There was one rate charged to any property owner.
Okay. Was that generally? Was there a ballpark on how much that was, or? But whatever it is.
The number's out there. I've never looked for what the number was.
Now, when they went to a dual system, is the rate higher for business than residents?
Yes, that's what a dual system does. It allows the municipality to shift some of the burden from the residential community onto the business community.
And I imagine that's fairly popular with voters as residents. Businesses
What?
per se don't necessarily have a vote, right? So is that kind it's a little bit easier politically for them to make that move?
Yes
Somewhat.
and no. You have to recognize that businesses have owners. They own homes. They live somewhere.
Yeah.
Some of them do live in the city, and even the ones that don't live in the city have employees that live in the city and possibly own property and own homes. And so if you raise the rate on a business, let's say I employ
Yeah, I
you.
guess I'm just wondering though why they decided to make that move if politically there was a push from residents, because maybe they have a direct voice to their electing the councilors. You know what I mean?
From what I understand, when they did it, it coincided right around the time of Proposition 2.5 going into effect,
So
which
they were
limited the
limited,
amount that a municipality could raise the tax levy. This would be a way to shift some of that burden,
I
and the
getcha.
idea
That makes
is
sense.
valuations for businesses might be a
So it
little
broke
bit
it free from that
higher.
limitation on the residential side.
Yes,
That was
and
imposed by
shifted
2.5.
some to the business side. I think there was a few of the articles around the time that I've looked at, there was an assumption that valuations might drastically increase on the business side, so you're generating more tax revenue off of increased valuations. Over the course of time, though, a number of the people involved in that vote have said it was one of the worst decisions that they've ever made.
Yeah.
The picture didn't quite shape out the way I think people thought.
Thought it would.
Again,
So that was in
1984,
84.
1985, I was 7 or 8 years old, so I wasn't really
I'm
that in
picturing
tune
very
with
young,
the...
very young Stuart Loosemore with the bow tie appearing in City Hall
No.
at City Council chambers.
About as short as I am now, but a
Taking
whole lot
notes.
skinnier at the time. But I
So
wasn't
since
around
then,
at the
how-
time, so
since
it's...
then, there's been some, probably from time to time this issue has come up. Has it been changed drastically since then, or?
It's one of those things where over time, the divide or the split between residents and businesses did start to grow, which meant the residential rate went lower and lower and the business rate went higher and higher until you got to a point where, for a number of years, it was the lowest residential option. So the lowest rate available to residents was adopted, which also means the highest rate possible to tax businesses was
Was
adopted.
needed, yeah.
So it widened the gap as far as legally possible under the law.
Wow. So, and of course that doesn't make for a very friendly business environment, and puts
We-
a lot more kind of onus on businesses when they're looking at where to locate, and then
Yes.
just the cost of doing business in Worcester and being passed on maybe to customers, right?
Our take on it is it is certainly detrimental to businesses.
Yeah.
Creating that wide a gap, we feel doesn't send the right message to businesses that are looking here, businesses that might be here looking to expand, stay, weighing in their options.
So is there a specific number? Is the hope or the push at this point to go back to a single rate, or is it just to get it closer? And if so, is there a specific kind of proposal that's being put forth by the chamber?
A bit of both. Ideally, yes, we would like to get back towards that single rate option, but we're still far enough apart that that's not going to happen overnight. Since my time at the chamber, we've made some incremental progress over the years in reducing that split. So again, trying not to make your eyes gloss over, The way the law is written, the legal limit of that shift is a factor called 1.75, which is essentially taking 75% from the residential side and sliding it over. We've reduced that to the factor is this current year is 1.3556. You round it up, it's about 36% that's shifted over.
Okay.
So our position, our public position, is line 149 in the tax table, which is a factor of 1.3310. So that's taking a 36% shift and lowering it to a 33% shift. So again, decreasing
Tightening up
that
that split.
gap between.
Is there
We're
any
not-
sense of what the average savings would be for business or how it would affect residential?
Rates would still go up for everybody.
Yeah.
Bills would still go up for everybody. And a lot of that is budget derived in the levy that needs to be collected
Established,
in
yeah.
revenue in order to pay the city's bills and services.
Yeah.
The tough part is that discussion and this discussion happen at
So it's just it would
different
go up
times
a
of the
little bit
year.
less for business to help.
It
create
would
that,
go up.
less of a to shift that gap.
Well, that line we felt was fair and equitable and appropriate because it's an about equal average dollar increase for the residential tax bill and the business tax bill. So the average residential tax bill would go up about $145. The average commercial tax bill would go up about $154. So numbers that are close enough, still a little bit more on the business side.
Yeah.
But again, everybody's bill is
Still
going up.
Still a
but
little
we're
bit
all-
a little bit more with this increase, but overall still a major a fairly significant gap. So
We're
this
narrowing
increase
that gap.
is still a little bit, but overall there's still a pretty
making
significant
progress.
gap, yeah.
And our real bottom line, yes, we have line 149, which is our public stance, but our real bottom line message to the council this year is we need to continue the progress of the last few years.
Yeah.
There's a progress shift that just has to be maintained. We need to keep sending that message to the business community that Worcester is a business-friendly place.
And they have a voice, and they have there's
Yes.
a care about taking care of business in our city. And one of the things I think that might be a bit counterintuitive is if you lowered the rate on business, but we're able to retain and support and recruit new business here sufficiently, the actual dollars you raise would go up, correct? Or
So-
that's kind of part of the thinking, right?
Yes, again, part of our message for a long time has been decreasing the rate on businesses encourages more businesses to relocate here. The ones that are here to reinvest, maybe
Yeah.
you've been thinking about taking, MC Turgeon Industries from where you are to a larger location.
That's right.
That will increase the valuations, which is essentially the base that the tax rate is applied to. So as that base as a city rises, everybody's taxes go down.
Yeah.
And it's a
So
lot
it's,
easier to
Again, a
raise it.
counterintuitive argument to residents that they shouldn't necessarily be against this because in the long run, it might
It
lower
will
their
lower
rates
their
as
taxes.
well.
Not even might. It will. In the long run, if we continue to make progress, if we continue to entice the business community and pull the business
And
community
I think
into
one of the
Worcester,
other
taxes will
Yeah.
end up going
and
down.
I know
for
one
everybody.
of the other arguments in favor of this is that you've got Worcester, has surrounded by towns that might have a more friendly tax
Yes.
rate, and so if you're thinking about expanding or whatever, you might just look to why not expand in Auburn or why not expand in Millbury or whatever, and now all of a sudden Worcester loses out even more.
Millbury has a single rate lower than Worcester. Shrewsbury has a single rate.
I think
lower
Auburn's
than
moving in
Worcester.
a direction, and
Auburn has been moving over the last 8 to 9 years incrementally towards a single rate. This year, Auburn froze. They didn't decrease that split, but they didn't increase it in favor of residents either. They held their factor or their split at 1.22 to send the business to the message to the business community that
we're
aware.
open for business. Yeah,
we want you to keep coming here. They did have a school override go into effect, and even with all of that, their board of selectmen said we want to continue the
so
progress.
there is very real when you're talking economic development and business support, a very real recognition that there is
Look at
Somewhat
Auburn.
competition, right,
Look at
exactly,
Auburn
right.
over the last 10 years. Look at Worcester over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And not to say Worcester has also seen its development. I mean, we have City Square going online. We have
But we've also seen a
you know,
significant amount of business
Gateway
moving out
Park.
and growth in
Wow.
Auburn that could have come to Worcester as well.
But about 5 years ago
So
is
what
when
can
we
people
started
do?
making that shift. And
Yeah.
I think we've seen less and less of that loss of business since doing that.
So what can people do to support this effort? Call their local counselor.
Call the council. Call and email
Yeah.
the council.
Let them know that if, as a resident, you understand the argument and,
Yes.
and would support it. And if you're a business owner, they can also likewise chime in, or a business employee, whomever, right?
Yes,
Could
we-
chime in and let their voice be heard.
We encourage everybody, the business owner, the resident who understands and supports our position, the employee at the business, because
So there's two people they could wait, or multiple. One is their own local district counselor, and then
Correct.
also the counselors at large.
And- yes,
they
and the
have,
mayor.
And
Yes.
the mayor as well.
I mean, to your point before, we recognize it is part of an overall equation
Yeah.
for the cost of doing business, but it is a significant piece that the city council has some
And if we
direct
can support
oversight
a
over.
better community for all, it's, like you said, a bigger tax base for all. That's
Then
gonna-
everybody's bill goes down.
So we're talking with Stuart Loosemore, the General Counsel and Government Policy Director.
Director of Government Affairs and Public
I was
Policy.
so close with that one.
all right.
All right. Before we let you go,
Uh-oh.
you may have heard our game with Monica
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
We talked about James Bond. Well, we're gonna. This game's called Name That Stuart.
Oh gosh. Okay.
All right. So, and there's a lot to choose from.
Yes.
But we picked
Only one important
four.
one.
Yes, but we picked four: Jimmy Stewart, Rod
Okay.
Stewart,
Okay.
John Stewart,
Okay.
and Tony Stewart. Tony being the race car driver. Very
Yes.
famous
Okay.
Race car
Yep.
driver.
Yep.
John Stewart, the host of the Daily
Yes.
Show. Rod Stewart, famous singer,
Singer.
crooner, if you will. And Jimmy Stewart there, some sort of actor, does some acting there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Your money in the
This
bank.
time of year, he's very
your money
popular
isn't
this
just
time.
in the bank. It's
Sure.
in his house.
Yeah,
and his
so
house.
the-
And
yeah, Mr.
That was
Potter.
really Stuart Little.
Stuart Little, because there's so many famous folks out there. All right, so we're gonna give you three pieces of bio,
You-
and
you
you've got to
do
say
realize-
which one is which.
So Jimmy Stewart, Tony Stewart, Rod Stewart, and John Stewart all are STEWARTs.
Yes, we're not. This is with big picture here.
I'm
We're
just
thinking
saying.
big picture.
Just saying, different spelling.
yes, correct. We broadened the horizon for this game. We spared no expense. We paid for the
Stuart
extra.
Little, by the way, is spelled the same way as mine.
Stuart Smalley as well, the famous character from Saturday Night
I'm
Live.
good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone
God,
it,
people are like me. You got it.
Al Franken, I believe.
That's right. His interview with Michael
Sorry,
Jordan is
Senator Al Franken.
That's right, Senator. His interview with Michael Jordan is like one of my all-time favorites. Just love that guy. Anyways, okay. After college, this Stewart held numerous jobs. He was a contingency planner for the government's Human Services Office. He was also a puppeteer for children with disabilities, a soccer coach, a caterer, a busboy, a shelf stalker at a department store, and a bartender before he moved on to fame. Which Stewart? Jimmy, Rod, John, or Tony?
Rod Stewart.
Incorrect. That was John Stewart of The
Really?
Daily Show. Worked
Okay.
for State of New Jersey, their Human Services Office.
Okay.
Okay, this Stewart worked in the family newspaper shop and as a newspaper delivery boy. He worked briefly as a laborer for a cemetery and then in a screen printing shop. So it's Jimmy, Rod, or Tony. Now, much like Monica, I might recommend you revisit your last vote.
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart, correct. Extra points if you could sing Tonight's the Night.
No one wants
Not
to hear
even
me
gonna
sing.
try, yeah.
No, nobody wants to hear me sing. That'd be really bad.
We have a bit of Rod Stewart coming up later in the show. It's a little tease out there for folks. Well, Rod Stewart is going to be, he's part of the intro for Downtown Ethan. No, he's part of the intro for Downtown Ethan Brown. Okay, this Stewart, and now we're talking, it's either Jimmy
or
Stewart
Tony.
or Tony.
Yep.
This Stewart returned to his hometown after finishing school to work as a brick loader for a local construction company and on highway and road construction jobs where he painted lines on the roads. Over the following 2 summers, he took a job as an assistant with a professional magician. I didn't make this up. This is all. Oh, these are all courtesy of Wikipedia, by the way.
Sure.
So maybe someone else made it up, but I just took it. So
You just stole it from Wikipedia.
yeah, this one might be a bit counter. I wouldn't go with logic on this one because you hear painted lines on highway and roads, and you're thinking maybe one of them, but I wouldn't go that way.
Jimmy Stewart.
You're right, Jimmy Stewart. He pulled a rabbit out of his hat. You see that?
He and I have
There's a
something.
rabbit in the hat there.
He and
How
I
did
have
that get
something
there?
in common.
Yeah.
I painted lines in roads
You kidding me?
back in the
What's a little
college
crooked
days.
there? Maybe we should
Route
put a
140.
dash line here.
122, 122A down through the
Really?
Blackstone
I have
Valley.
always, I asked Sean, I have always commented as the quality of the lines on those roadways.
Yeah.
Always.
Best lines.
Best lines in Worcester
Best
County.
lines in Worcester County.
Stuart, as always, thank you for coming on. You've been listening to The Working Lunch.
Thanks,
Stuart,
Jeff.
Stuart Loosemore, the General Counsel and some in Government Affairs, Director of Government Policy and Affairs. Very close, very close. But also, but this
You
is.
butcher my last name a little bit and my title. Go ahead.
How do you say your last name?
Loosemore, not Loosemere. Loosemore.
Oh, did I say Loosemore?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? I was trying to get to. I was trying to get back to.
So since I've got the microphone, it's Stuart Loosemore.
Stuart
It's
Loosemore.
General Counsel and Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy.
I think we're gonna edit that out of the tape. Like cut it for future reference. So when we have you on, we can just hit a button and that'll be there.
Yeah, please don't make me the
And
Director
this
of
has been
Public Affairs. I don't.
A hearty helping of stew. This segment. Okay, we're back to the Working Lunch, a special Thanksgiving edition, if you will.
Ooh.
I got to use some body English. A special Thanksgiving edition. I almost sound like Dr. Zukowski there.
Nobody sounds like
I
Bob.
don't
He's got
think
it.
so.
He's got the voice for radio.
So, as part of Thanksgiving, you did some interviews with local folks that are directly involved with the Thanksgiving effort locally for those that are less fortunate and having a hard time putting food on the table. Why don't you, are we ready to go to that segment?
This
or-
time of year is a lot of people donate, also donate their time and goods. So I had a chance to sit down with the Worcester County Food Bank, and then I also sat down with the food pantry, Father Madden. So.
Great.
All right, we're here now with Father John Madden. Father, how you doing today?
I'm well today. Thank you, Sean.
And we're here today because we're at the St. Francis Xavier Center for the Food for the Poor program. Can you tell us a little bit about the program?
Well, it's there's two parts to it, Sean. One is what we normally call a soup kitchen that's open Monday through Friday morning, and then there's also a food pantry for take-home food as well that's done on Friday afternoons.
And is this something that goes on year-round, or is it something that happens during the holiday season with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up?
No, it's year-round, 52 weeks a year. We started 10 years ago in the lower church, and it was a year in June that the new center was opened.
It's a beautiful-looking center.
Yeah, it's a great. Yeah.
And is it volunteer-driven, or do you have staff?
It's volunteer-driven. We have one paid staff person. Otherwise, it's all volunteer.
And where do volunteers come from? Are they just from the community, or are there organizations that'll send like a volunteer day? Where do you get the volunteers from?
Yeah, all of that. So we have the volunteers. We have teams each day, Monday through Friday, who are sort of regular volunteers, parishioners, people from other churches in the city. And then we have organizations like on Friday, the staff of the city manager's office is coming down. Last week on Veterans Day, some students from St. Mary's and Shrewsbury CCD came. So we will also get different groups that come periodically as well.
And if people are interested in volunteering, is there a website or is there a form they need to fill out, or can they just come down?
Well, no, they really should. They could call the church, or there is a website at St. John's Food for the Poor.org or something, or just call the directory just so that we know who's coming when, type of thing. Yeah.
And is the food that you're serving, is that donations?
Largely, it is donated. For the meal is largely donated. The Stop and Shops, Sam's, Holy Cross, Clark, Rachel's Table. There's all kind of groups that give just people who have a party and drop off the food. The food pantry is largely through cash donations. We go out and buy the non-perishables and other stuff.
And can you tell me the difference between a food pantry and a food bank, or is there a difference?
Well, I think a food bank is more a place that stores a lot of food and distributes to food pantries.
Oh, okay.
The pantries are those that hand it out directly to the people in need. Yeah.
And if people were interested in making a donation of food, would they bring it here, or is there certain drop-off areas throughout the city?
No, for us it's here. And other I think like the Mustard Seed, you could contact them and other places. But for us, we just ask them to drop it here, and we heat it up and serve it. So.
And do you have any idea on the?
Thanks. Yeah, nice seeing you.
Do you have any ideas on the number of people you serve?
Well, at the meal, we've been serving 300 meals a day, and sometimes at the end of the month, even more. You know, we thought that at the end of October, we were up into the 400, 500 meals the last week of the month. So, a lot of food. Yeah,
absolutely. It sounds like great work you guys are doing, and we thank you for that, and thank you for taking some time this morning to talk to me.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, we're blessed by doing the work, so... but it's turned out great for the parish and the community as well.
Thank you, Father Madden.
All right, we're here now with the Worcester County Food Bank Executive Director, Jean McMurray. How are you doing today, Jean?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So one of my first questions is, what is a food bank?
So the best way to think about the Worcester County Food Bank is to think of it as a centralized collection and distribution center, sort of a hub, where we receive in large volumes of donated food. Our volunteers and staff check it for food safety, and then it goes right back out into the community through a network of 138 partner agencies. And agencies include food pantries, community meal sites, or what we used to call soup kitchens, shelters, any kind of program where people are coming for some type of assistance.
You talk about large amounts of food. I mean, before this interview, you took us for a walk around, a tour, and I just couldn't believe how much food is there.
Right.
Where do all those donations come from?
So our food comes from primarily three sources. One we might call like the food industry, and that also includes community food drives that schools, businesses would hold for us during the year. We work with a lot of local farms because we're doing a lot with non-perishable food as well as perishable food. And then the other 2/3 of our food comes from the federal government through the United States Department of Agriculture. And then there's a state-funded program called the Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program. So altogether, that's what makes up all of our food. And it's all donated, whether it comes from the government or from a supermarket or a farm, it's all donated. And we're very grateful to everyone who is a part of making all of this possible.
Yeah, and I know right now is a busy time of the year for you with the holidays, but this is something that goes on year-round. It's
That's right.
Always...
You know, we appreciate that people are contacting us to say, can we do a food drive for you? Can we volunteer? So we always appreciate that. And then we say, could you think about us again, maybe in March or May or August? Because unfortunately, hunger is a year-round problem. It doesn't take a vacation in the summer. So we have special programs in the summer to make sure that kids are getting the meals they need that they won't get because school is out and they don't have access to school breakfast and lunch. The other thing is that somebody could be doing fine right now. They could have a job, they're making ends meet, but they get sick or they're in an accident, and before you know it, they could be struggling to provide for themselves and their family. So we never know when we're going to need help, and that's why the food bank and our network of agencies is here for everybody in their time of need. And we try to provide meaningful assistance to people. I mean, it's very basic. It's food. And as we were talking earlier, you know, we're distributing about 5.5 million pounds of food, which, to put that into some kind of context, it's enough food for 87,000 meals a week. So we want to see our loading dock doors busy because the doors that go back out into the community, they're very busy, and we always want to make sure we have some food here for the agencies.
Yeah, and another thing that shocked me is you said you had 15 paid employees and then 300 volunteers. I mean, that's including
my father, Kevin McGauley.
I know, I didn't know about that connection, but I'm looking forward to seeing him in about 45 minutes
Yeah,
or
he'll
so
be
when
in
he
later
comes.
this morning.
Yeah, yeah. Our volunteers are extremely valuable. Basically, we could not do what we do because we have to check every can and box of food for food safety. And that's something that people may not understand, is that the food we're distributing, it's not expired, it's very good quality. But if there's several dents, or if the food is close to expiration date, we have to be very mindful of that and make sure that what we're distributing is going to support a person's health and not compromise it in any way.
So can you explain the volunteer process a little bit? I know my father's retired, and so he was looking for something to get involved in the community, so that it was a fit for him. But as we took the tour, you said there were some organizations or some companies that do like a volunteer day. Can you explain the volunteer process?
Sure. So first, people, if they're interested in learning about the food bank, I always recommend that they come for a tour, because that gives you an opportunity to see what we do and what your interests might be. And then on our website, which is foodbank.org, we have a whole page dedicated to volunteerism. But basically, the majority of our volunteers really help us to sort food, because when it's donated, it may all come in a big pile of food, all things mixed together. And we like to separate things out by category. So we wanted to put boxes of cereal together. We want to put canned soups together. It makes it easier for the agencies who come. So that's where the volunteers come in. And again, we just couldn't do it without them. But there's a form on the website that people can fill out, and it comes right to us. And then we have somebody on staff who will call you and say, why don't you come in for an orientation. We also, as you mentioned, can do some team building with companies and businesses. We don't have those opportunities available all the time, but we can plan and schedule ahead. So it's basically the same process. There's a form on the website, and then Loosemore is our volunteer coordinator. He will receive it and call you. But you can also walk in and pick up the form and fill it out. So there's different ways of getting involved.
Cool. So now we know how to volunteer.
Yeah.
But the other big piece of this is how do we donate? If people at home are interested in donating food, how would they go about that?
Sure. So people can certainly donate directly to the food bank. We may be accessible to people because we're right on Route 9 and maybe they drive by it. But the other thing that folks can keep in mind is perhaps there's one of our partner agencies, a food pantry, right in your neighborhood or in your town. You can donate directly to them, because whether you're helping us or helping our partner agency, you're really helping the whole community. And so on our website, we also have an agency locator. You could type in your address and it would show you the pantry closest to where you live. On our website, we also have a list of most needed items. This time of year, we're looking for hearty soups and stews, maybe oatmeal, those things that really keep people nourished.
To the bones,
and
right?
Exactly. But if at any time people have a question, they can always call us. We also have a live chat feature on our website, so you can go on and ask us a question. We'll get right back to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you guys are doing a lot for the community, and we'd like to thank you for that and for all the hard work that you do. Thank you for taking the time today to talk to us.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jean.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown.
Nope. When you down, 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 down.
Mr. Pop.
I don't know why you don't take me downtown, like you got anywhere better to be.
Will I see you tonight on a downtown train?
Nope.
And now it's time for another edition of Downtown with Ethan Brown.
Welcome to Downtown with Ethan Brown. I'm your host and reporter on the scene, Ethan Brown. In this segment, we like to spotlight companies and businesses in the Worcester area. Today, I'm here with Jackie, and she's the owner-operator along with her husband with Talia's Cafe. How are you?
Doing fantastic, thank you.
All right, I want to thank you for kind of taking the time to talk to us a little bit. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jacqueline, and my family and I, we decided a long time ago that we would like to, we wanted to have a restaurant, and especially because we love our traditions, our recipes, and during family parties, we always commented, oh, this food is great. We should do something about it, and get to people know our culture, get to people know what our food is. And time went by, but the dream still was alive, and the time came, and the opportunity as well. So we decided this is the time, and we have to take advantage of the chance, and that's what we did.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Why did you guys choose Worcester?
Well, when we arrived here 9 years ago, we arrived to Worcester, and we have a lot of love for this town, especially because we went to high school here as well with my siblings. We work here in different places. Our church is here. So this is our community.
That's great. So what kind of foods you guys provide here?
So our menu is basically items that are found if you travel to our countries. Whether you go to Mexico or whether you go to El Salvador, every household will definitely be cooking something like what we do here. So we do pupusas. It's a very typical dish in my country. They are like hot pockets, and people eat them for breakfast. They eat them for lunch, for dinner, for weddings. Any occasion, you will see pupusas right on their tables.
That sounds really, really good. Later on, we might have to do some pupusas. So if I want to send people here to grab a delicious bite to eat, where am I sending them?
So we are located right on Front Street, on 20 Front Street. City Hall is across, and our hours of operations are 8 a.m. Till 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, and then on Sundays we open at 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. and Monday 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
So on like Tuesdays, you're open as late as 8 p.m. Yes. So I can get pupusas like at 7:59.
Yes. Any time of the day, breakfast, lunch.
Whoopie doobie. That sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jackie. Appreciate it. All right. Back to you guys in the studio.
Well, that's our man on the street, Ethan Brown, and
downtown Ethan Brown.
He'll be out visiting local businesses in downtown Worcester monthly, so you can look forward to that segment.
So this being the Thanksgiving show, one topic that kind of caught me out there that's becoming a bit controversial is more and more retail shops opening on Thanksgiving. Of course, in the past, most stores of all stripes did not open. They observed the holiday, gave not only they gave the workers there time to spend with their family and celebrate together as a community, if you will. And now that is less and less. Stores are more and more retail shops are opening, and I do make a distinction in my mind between a restaurant that might be open to serve people that aren't able to cook or whatever, versus retail shops.
And why do you make that distinction?
I just think, I can see restaurants opening as almost like a public service, if you will, as in support of the holiday, right? You're traveling or whatever. There's no place to get to cook yourself. There's no, all that, right? So I kind of understand the rationale between having restaurants open, but a retail shop, people going out shopping, getting a jump on Black Friday and all that. Bob, what do you think about this topic?
I think we should have the holiday remain as a holiday.
Right.
Yep.
Just to counter that point, though, you mentioned like the restaurants staying open as a part of the holiday spirit. I think there's also, for some families, probably some tradition in like a friend of mine, her family gets together and they're cutting coupons or they're planning out which stores they're going to go to get the deals. And it's this big family thing where all the aunts and
yes, they're together planning their shopping adventure.
Right.
They're going that day.
Yeah. It's usually like that day into Black Friday.
How it's a tradition if stores have only started opening in the past couple of years.
For Black Friday?
No. Opening on Thanksgiving Day, not the day after Thanksgiving.
They usually open like at a later time, so they'll open like around 5 o'clock or an 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
to me, it just rubs me the wrong way. I think it's taking away from your holiday. I think as a society, we ought to observe a holiday and have a communal day where we...
Except
where
for
we
restaurants.
Give thanks. Well, again, I think food is part of the
tradition.
Yeah,
I could see that.
So some stores that are open are Best Buy, Radio Shack, American Eagle, Walmart, Target. So you got people who not making a whole lot of money, but have to leave their families or be threatened with being fired. There are some stores that are adamantly against that. Barnes & Noble is going to be closed. Bed Bath & Beyond, American Girl. It's almost become a Home Depot. It's almost become a political /statement of I'm in support of holiday versus not. Interestingly enough, a lot of the Fox crowd, a lot of the conservatives out there are saying folks should be happy they got a job and get to work, which to me is not a conservative stance. Proper conservative stance would be that's family time, non-commercial time.
Agreed.
And let's spend some time with family and whether you're cutting coupons or doing whatever you're doing over
It's
there.
not me personally.
No, that's fine, Sean. If that's your family.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. You spend another time at the Working Lunch. I want to thank our producer, Dr. Robert Skowski, Bob Z, Sean, and the folks at
Happy
Cable
Thanksgiving.
Services for coming to tape us.
See you next month.
And I want to be thankful for you, my
thankful
co-host.
for you, Jeff. I agree.
Look, I put the chance